Thank you for joining us today. I am Lindsay Johnson, Executive Director of Explore Ecology, and I am thrilled to be here with you today to celebrate Earth Day. We are at the Watershed Resource Center at Arroyo Burro Beach, and I am joined by our amazing team of environmental educators, Lydia, Angie, and Chris. Explore Ecology has been empowering our community to protect and preserve the environment for over 30 years. We are an environmental education and arts nonprofit that educates over 35,000 students annually. We thank all of you who have supported our programming over the past 3 decades. We couldn't do it without you. Explore Ecology programs include the Art from Scrap Creative Reuse Store, which just reopened yesterday. We're very excited. The Watershed Resource Center, where we're sitting today, our environmental education programs, and our School Gardens program. Our work empowers the next generation of environmental stewards and creative reuse artists. Special thanks to the City of Santa Barbara Creeks Division and Project Clean Water for supporting our watershed education programs. Are you ready to learn about our local watersheds and how you can help protect them? Here is Lydia to tell you more. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Lydia Ballantyne and I work at Explore Ecology as an environmental educator and the Watershed Resource Center manager. And I'm here today to kick off our Flows to the Ocean Watershed Education Workshop. So this is brought to you by Explore Ecology along with the Isla Vista Blue Water Task Force with funding provided by the City of Santa Barbara Creeks Division. And because we're talking about water, one of the big concepts that it's really important to understand when we talk about water and how it moves is a watershed. And a watershed is not a shed that holds water. That's one meaning of the word. But the meaning I'm talking about here is the area of land where all of the water that falls on that land will drain to the same body of water. And this image right here shows us an example of a watershed. And as you can see, it's kind of shaped like a bowl. So any water that falls on these mountains and hills will flow downhill until it reaches a stream, which will flow downhill until it reaches a larger stream, which connects to this river, which will likely eventually end up in the ocean. And the thing about watersheds is no matter where you are on land, you are in a watershed. So if you're standing in a grocery store parking lot, if you're on top of a mountain hiking, if you're at school, if you're sitting in front of your computer watching this presentation, you are in a watershed. Because no matter where you are, water will fall on the land and flow downhill until it reaches a body of water. And I'm going to show you a tool that all of you can access because it is on Google Maps. And this is using terrain mode on Google Maps. So if I go over here and I turn on terrain mode, like so, it shows you the 3-dimensional topographic shape of the land. And this is where I am, as you can see, right at the Watershed Resource Center at Hendry's Beach or Arroyo Burro Beach. And you can see the estuary as it flows into the ocean. And if we follow Arroyo Burro Creek up, you can see really clearly based on the shape of the land where that creek flows through the watershed. So it flows in between Ealings Park and this hill. It's actually underground for a bit there. And then if we follow it up, we see it's always finding the lowest point to flow down. And we can follow it all the way up to the headwaters in the Santa Ynez Mountains. And as you see here, we have kind of a bowl shape, and any water that falls within this bowl shape, which is the start of the watershed, will flow downhill until it reaches Arroyo Burro Creek and then continue out to the ocean. And the Santa Ynez Mountains are awesome examples of watersheds. So let's find another one. We have this one right here. This is a great example, this bowl shape right here, which flows into Mission Creek. And if we follow Mission Creek down, it goes through the Santa Barbara Botanic Gardens, through downtown, it goes along the highway for quite a ways, and then ends up at Stearns Wharf. And watersheds are divided by the shape of the land. So that's why we say something is a watershed moment. If the water falls on this side of this ridge, it will go into this watershed, end up in Mission Creek, but if it falls on the other side, it will end up somewhere entirely different. So that's a watershed moment is a moment where things could go in two entirely different directions. And because we live so close to the ocean here, we have an extra responsibility to make sure we're keeping our creeks and our watersheds clean, and that water is clean when it flows into the ocean, because we're right next to the Santa Barbara Channel, which is a really unique marine environment. So the other thing that we have available if you want to learn more about watersheds is these color-coded watershed maps, like the one you can see behind me. So we have one at the Watershed Resource Center. We actually have another one out on our back patio. So if you ever come by and we're closed, you can just come on up there and check out that map. It's a really big one. And on our website as well, if you go to exploreecology.org, we have a bunch of these maps that are all color-coded. And you can see here, this yellow one is the Arroyo Burro Watershed that I just showed you. And this is where I'm sitting. And you can see they all kind of fit together like puzzle pieces and flow into each other. So now that we know a bit of what those watersheds look like from Google Maps and from these maps, I'm going to hand it over to my coworker, Angie, who will show you what they look like in real life. All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angie, and I am a garden educator and environmental educator for Explore Ecology. And today I'm going to be taking you on a virtual tour of the Douglas Preserve, which is just above the Watershed Resource Center. And we're going to check out the estuary. So I'm going to... All right. So we're going to start off our virtual tour at the top of the Santa Ynez Mountains. So you can see them here in the video. And we're going to pretend that we're a water droplet or following a water droplet. And we're going to have it fall down that peak, down the mountain into the Arroyo Burro Creek, and it's going to flow past all the neighborhoods and highways until it reaches the estuary here at Henry's Beach. And an estuary is a special spot where fresh water from a creek or stream meets the salty ocean water. And you can see here the estuary is blocked off from flowing out into the ocean, but just a few weeks ago it broke through the sand and was flowing out to sea. And we are now overlooking Henry's Beach from the Douglas Preserve, which is a piece of land that was purchased and protected from development in the 90s. And as you can see, it has amazing views of the ocean, and the coastline in Santa Barbara. And it has, it's a really great example of a healthy ecosystem in Santa Barbara that's enjoyed by people, plants, and animals. You can see very popular with our dog owners in Santa Barbara. Now the preserve is home to abundance of native and non-native plants that are thriving next to the coast. And you can see here some understory mallow and wild radish plants that are hanging out under these coast live oak trees. And then we have a beautiful elderberry that's in full bloom right now. And the elderberry branches were actually used for thousands of years. Actually, they're still being used by the Chumash people to make clapper sticks for ceremonies. And they also use the fruit and the flowers for food and medicine. And the preserve is also home to many bird species, many different bird species. And you can see this acorn woodpecker is working hard on designing its granary in this old tree. And a beautiful blue heron is perched on this black walnut tree that is just starting to leaf out from its winter hibernation. So now that we've seen some different parts of the estuary from above, we're going to take a look at it from sea level. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. There we go. All right. So we will start with where our creek is meeting the estuary, and we can see some turtles and ducks swimming around, enjoying that cool, nice water. And as we pan out, we can kind of see some of the human-made elements of this creek system with this culvert here, and then the bridge that you've probably all driven over to get to Henry's Beach. But the creek actually extends all the way back into the neighborhood, which is a little bit north of Elings Park there. And if you decided to come visit Henry's Beach and you cross over this bridge, you can check out some really awesome placards. Here's one of them that kind of breaks down the different plant and animal species that call the estuary home. And estuaries are amazing, unique ecosystems because of the mixing of that fresh and salty water. And we call that brackish water when those two meet. And only certain species of plants and animals are adapted to live in brackish water. And an example of one is the tidewater goby, which is like a little tiny fish. And many of the plant species that you see growing along the edges of the estuary are also adapted to these special conditions. Many of these plants are also important because they help keep the waters clean and clear. And they do this by filtering out pollutants and excess nutrients. And they also help reduce runoff and soil erosion. And in some parts, they also keep the water nice and cool. And this allows for more dissolved oxygen to be available for the animals that are living in the estuary. And due to the tides and the weather, our estuary is currently blocked off from the ocean. But during the winter and after heavy rains, it will open back up and spill out into the water. And this may also take some pollutants from the land that's carrying through the watershed and just send them straight out to the sea, which is definitely not a good thing. But, oh no. Sorry. Because of this, it's important that we understand that what we do to the land does have an impact on our creek, estuary, and ocean ecosystems. And their health is greatly dependent on our actions. And so if you love these beautiful spaces, it's important for you to know how to keep them healthy. And so in our next section, we're going to look at a few different types of pollution, where it comes from, and and how it can affect our wildlife. So we have 3 different types of pollution that we're going to talk about next. We have physical pollution, which you may have seen maybe in your neighborhood on the streets. This is our plastic pollution, which is kind of the most dangerous kind of pollution. Plastic will never break down back into soil. It just gets smaller and smaller. And so you've probably seen examples in your neighborhoods, maybe food wrappers or plastic water bottles. And when it rains, that rainwater can carry all of this plastic pollution straight out into the ocean. So that is one type that's pretty dangerous. Another type of pollution is chemical pollution. And this can be coming from our cars in the form of maybe leaky oil pans, or from the CO2 that's coming from our cars or from industry. And those chemicals can settle on the ground and move with the water as it flows through the watershed. And some other types of chemical pollution, things like pesticides and herbicides that gardeners and farmers might be spraying on their plants and in their gardens, can also travel with the water. And these can be really dangerous when they get into our water ecosystems by making animals and our plants sick. And the last type of pollution we're going to talk about is nutrient pollution. So those take the form of like fertilizers and animal manure, specifically from maybe our pets. Henry's is really popular for dog owners, and so we do find some of this nutrient pollution in our estuary here, and we'll check in with the Blue Water Task Force in a little bit to see what their testing shows about the cleanliness of our water here at Henry's Beach. But nutrient pollution can come from over-fertilizing farms. It can also come from gardens, but specifically we're thinking about animal waste. And one big problem that it causes is these algae blooms you can see in the bottom left corner. When algae has access to too many nutrients, it can multiply rapidly and cause a lot of problems for the ecosystems in our ocean by decreasing oxygen levels and creating dead zones. So we definitely don't want to have too much of this nutrient pollution in our waterways. And you might be wondering, or you might already know how this is all getting into the ocean. And if you've ever seen a storm drain, we have these all over Santa Barbara. This is where all of that storm water, as it's flowing through the different watersheds, is accumulating. And it's just going to end up straight out into the ocean. We have some grates on our storm drains, which will capture those larger pieces of plastic and pollution. But obviously, the smaller stuff is going to get through. So those chemicals can get through, as well as those nutrients, and then the small pieces of plastic that can be really dangerous. And once these pollutants end up in the ocean, we call them marine debris. And people have heard of these huge trash islands floating out in the middle of the ocean. And most of that trash is coming from what we're doing on the land. So it's coming from litter and from people dumping trash illegally, and it's getting pushed through the watersheds and ending up in our oceans. And like we have learned, plastic takes a really long time to break down. Some say over hundreds of years. And so it's going to be a problem for a long time. The best thing we can do right now is make sure it's not getting into our ocean, but the plastic that is there is just getting broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. And you can see here this fish, when they cut it open, they found plastic in its stomach. And then you can see, trash floating around, releasing chemicals and things like that. And another really insidious thing about plastic is it starts to absorb the smell of the ocean. And so it becomes even harder for animals to recognize that it's not food. So it starts to smell like fish, which can trick animals and other creatures in the ocean into thinking that it's food, and then it can make them really sick. So these are just different types of pollutants that we want to try to clean up on land before they make their way to the ocean. So not spraying chemicals, cleaning up our litter, picking up in our neighborhoods and on our beaches is really big. And just being mindful of cleaning up after our pets or not using certain types of fertilizer in our garden. The Blue Water Task Force in Isla Vista has started doing water testing at Hendry's Beach. And so we're going to watch a short video on their water testing practices here and actually get to see some results that they've read a couple weeks ago. Shoot, I can't hear the sound. Oh no, sorry.
The greater the enterococcus level, the higher the risk of human health problems. Specifically, what we do is we test the water for the level of enterococcus bacteria.
All right, sorry about that.
Yeah, so we test weekly at 5 beaches in Isla Vista, as well as Hendry's Beach right here. And we will incubate on Friday, then read the samples and share the results on Saturday. What we do is we test the water for the level of enterococcus bacteria, which indicate fecal pollution. The greater the enterococcus level, the higher the risk of human health problems. Specifically for the process, we dilute the water sample, add a reagent, which is basically food, seal it in a Quanta tray, and then incubate at 41 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. To read, we use a UV light to spot any fluorescent wells, which help us calculate the most probable number of enterococcus per 100 milliliters, because it's just a number we use to estimate. So the California State Water Resources Control Board has set water quality standards that we compare our results to. For example, if the most probable number per 100 milliliters is greater than 104, we would highly advise the public to limit their water activities like swimming or surfing. Enterococcus aren't harmful on their own, but they can indicate other more dangerous microorganisms and viruses. Usually this fecal bacteria can come from human or animal waste or sewage or stormwater runoff. So if we had a really high number, we might estimate that the beach was down from like a runoff drain or a dog park. Yeah, there's a lot that both people and groups can do. On an individual level, we recommend encouraging beachgoers to clean up after their pets and take their trash with them, as well as doing activities at their home to reduce water runoff. This includes not wasting water indoors, fixing oil leaks in your car, and improving landscape techniques. Surfrider has several resources online with more specific information that I can share with you guys. On a more community level, it's also important to look at the organizations in your county and city. I think it's important to know what the main water and sanitation companies are and where they're located, as well as any farms and factories that could potentially affect water quality. Yeah, so overall, California has fairly healthy beaches, so Santa Barbara County as a whole is already doing great. According to a report from Heal the Bay that surveyed over 500 state beaches, they estimated 92% of beaches had good water quality in 2019, with the state's 10 dirtiest beaches residing mostly in San Mateo County in Northern California, and then 4 different specific spots in Southern California. So yay, Santa Barbara.
Hi, my name's Claire. I'm with Surfriders Blue Water Task Force, and I'm a third-year biology major at UCSB. And today I'm here to read the samples that my team member Mia incubated yesterday. So basically what we're looking for is Mia fed the bacteria that we're looking for. She put those little pellets in the water and shook it up, and they've been nice and warm inside of this 35 degrees Celsius incubator overnight. And so if there were any bacteria there, they've been given a chance to grow, and the way that we'll tell if they're there is I'm going to check them with this black light, and if they glow under the black light, then we know that they're there. And depending on the number of little squares that glow, we can make this calculation using this table. It's kind of like a multiplication table, and that allows us to make some really educated guesses about the bacteria count in the water. So let's check and see what we've got. The first thing that I'm going to check is our control. So if our control is clean, then that means that none of our samples are contaminated, and whatever we find is for real. It's a reflection of what's going on out in the water. Okay, so it looks like our control is clean, so I'm going to go ahead and check the rest of our samples, and I'll know that they don't have any accidental human-introduced bacteria in them. Okay, so that looks good. I just checked Burro Beach, and
Here at UC Santa Barbara.
kind of higher contracted inspection. We have one cell there that's probably got a little bit of bacteria in it, and this is so we went back and looked in the dark, and we found that one of these small wells was slightly fluorescing on the Hendry's sample. And so with that information, we'll be able to put it into our chart and get a number. Yeah.
So based on our findings of one small well fluorescing at Hendry's, we can then reference our MPN table and check for the point where 0 large wells and 1 small well cross on the chart. And this allows us to derive our MPN number, which stands for the most probable number. So this is a metric of statistically how many bacterial colonies are likely to be present in the water. And in this case, because only 1 small well fluoresced, that number is pretty low. But when it gets higher, it's a really helpful metric for us to be able to share with the public to kind of gauge the risk level of going out on any given day.
Hi, my name is Mia Lombardo, and I'm a third year at UC Santa Barbara. A citizen science program is any program or project that encourages public participation and collaboration in conducting scientific research. What that means for us as part of the Blue Water Task Force is that we collect water samples at 5 beaches in Isla Vista, and then we test them, and then we get to share the results with Isla Vista residents. Citizen science programs like the Blue Water Task Force are special in that they usually cover areas like beaches that aren't covered by state or local agencies and focus on more specific problems. Yeah, there are a lot of great opportunities and organizations if you're interested, like Surfrider, if you're interested in just like beach conservation and preservation. The chapter that I'm a part of in Isla Vista and Blue Water Task Force itself is student run and it is fairly insular, but we also have a lot of beach cleanups and other events and just a lot of other tips and stuff that we post on our website, Facebook, and Instagram. And then the Santa Barbara Surfrider chapter itself also has a lot of great events. I don't think they're doing meetings or any in-person events right now, but be on the lookout. And also Santa Barbara Channel Keeper is another great conservation organization that does the same, like water quality monitoring and other things. So if you're interested, there's so many cool things to do in Santa Barbara. Perfect. I just really want to emphasize that Surfrider is a really cool organization. I hadn't heard of it before going to college, and this is now going on my second year as part of the Blue Water Task Force. I just really love getting to actively be part of the community through testing and monitoring water quality, and then getting to share those results so that other people feel more safe and confident about the waters they swim and breathe and play in. I think it's really cool because a lot of these chapters, especially ones that are run like fully by students like we are, it's like we're not doing it for a profit, we're just doing it because we all have a vested interest in our oceans.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Angie for telling us all about those watersheds, and to Blue Water Task Force for teaching us about their water testing, which they actually do at Hendry's Beach in the room right below where I'm sitting right now. So they've been awesome to work with. And we will be doing a live Q&A at the end with Mia Lombardo, who you saw in the video, and my coworker, Chris. So if you have any questions, put those in the chat now, and we will answer them at the end of our presentation. And I want to wrap things up by talking about some ways that you can get involved to help prevent pollution and litter from getting into our waterways. And Angie mentioned quite a few ways in her presentation, such as making sure we dispose of chemicals properly, not using too much fertilizer on our lawns, especially at Hendry's Beach and anywhere where there are lots of dogs. Please pick up that dog poo so it doesn't get in our water and end up showing up in Blue Water Task Force's water tests. And I'm also going to tell you about some events that we have coming up at Explore Ecology where you all can get involved. So we do a lot of litter cleanups here. We love to get people involved with those, picking up litter both at the beaches and elsewhere in communities. And as we just learned with watersheds and with those storm drains, no matter where you are on land, that litter can go down a storm drain or move through the watershed and end up in the ocean. So even if you're far from the ocean, it's still really helpful to do a litter cleanup. And to do one of those, you'll need gloves. You can either use disposable or the reusable kind, or you can just wash your hands super well when you're done. You'll need a bucket or a plastic bag to put your trash in. Bonus points if the bag is a reused bag, so you're not making more trash. You'll need some hand sanitizer to keep coronavirus and trash off of your hands, or just make sure you wash them really well afterwards. Of course, you'll need a face mask because we are still living in a pandemic. And then you can also use the Clean Swell app. And this is available in the App Store or in Google Play. And it's an app that lets you track the trash you pick up as you go, or you can record your cleanup afterwards. So it's really cool because it shows you what you picked up, so you know how much impact you've had. And then it also sends all that information to an international database that people from all over the world use this app. And that database can then be used to track patterns in ocean trash and see what type of trash we're finding more of. And they use that information to actually influence laws surrounding plastic. So they try to support legislation that will reduce the amount of plastic that we use, which will then reduce the amount of plastic that ends up in our water. And Explore Ecology is actually having several events coming up soon where you can get a free litter cleanup kit if you would like one, and then you can use this to do your cleanup. So each of these kits has a bucket with some instructions on how to do a cleanup. So if you forget what I'm telling you right now or you want a refresher, you can look at the bucket. We also have a QR code that takes you to our website where we have a lot more details on litter cleanups and how to do them. You get some hand sanitizer as well to keep trash and coronavirus off your hands. Please wash them as well. You also get some reusable garden gloves to keep your hands clean and safe. And there's a postcard in there with instructions in English and Spanish on how to download and use the Clean Swell app. And it also links to their website. So if you're interested in getting one of those, we have events coming up every Friday, starting tomorrow actually through June. And they'll be throughout the community in various locations. So each event will be 4 to 5:30. And our first one is tomorrow at East Beach. So it's the parking lot down closer to the volleyball courts where they were doing COVID testing for quite a while. We'll be there 4 to 5:30. We also have one coming up at the East Side Public Library, the Montecito Library, and Alice Keck Memorial Park. And then we'll have more dates announced soon. It'll be every Friday, but we'll announce the locations, and check our social media and website for those dates if you would like. And then throughout the year, every second Sunday of the month, we do a beach cleanup at Arroyo Burro Beach. So come on by, you can bring your litter cleanup kits if you picked up one of those, or we have materials that you're welcome to borrow. And yeah, we meet 10 to 12 and clean up Arroyo Burro Beach, because as you saw in those videos, it's a multi-use site that gets a ton of people coming through to enjoy the beautiful beach, to surf, to walk their dogs, to eat lunch, but it's a lot of traffic. So it's really important that we keep it clean. And as you're doing a litter cleanup, please make sure that you're being safe. So don't pick up anything that's sharp, like broken glass, or that looks dangerous, like a weapon or anything like that. Don't pick up things that are sticky or just extra gross, like rotting food. Not worth it. That can stay where it is. And also leave things that are part of nature. So seaweed, dead animals, sticks, things like that, those can stay where you found them. And we sometimes find personal items such as shoes or backpacks, or belongings belonging to someone who's homeless, and those we can leave as well, because someone is likely coming back for those. Of course, please wear a mask, practice COVID safety, and if you do want more info, you can scan that QR code on your bucket for more instructions. And then at the end of the summer in September, we have our Coastal Cleanup Day event, which is a worldwide event, and we coordinate our efforts in Santa Barbara County in partnership with the California Coastal Commission. And this year, we're still figuring out the details, but we will be having the event in some form. Hopefully we'll be able to gather, and we'll be cleaning up trash throughout the county. So it's a huge group effort, and we pick up thousands of pounds of trash with thousands of volunteers each year. So keep your eye out for more info on that coming soon. And finally, as Lindsay mentioned in her introduction, our Art from Scrap store is reopening. And how this ties in to waterways and litter is if we can just make less trash, that trash is not going to end up in the ocean. And Art from Scrap does a really awesome job of diverting materials from the landfill. So everything in the store is donated either by local businesses or by individuals. And it's all things that otherwise would have gone to a landfill, but instead are getting another chance at life and being made into whatever you want to make them into. So we're open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 4. Please wear a mask, and we are limiting customers, so have patience as we let folks in, but we're so excited to have everyone back. And feel free to keep in touch with us. You can check out our website and the Isla Vista Blue Water Task Force's website. We're both on Instagram and Facebook as well. And thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my coworker, Chris, and to Mia Lombardo, and they will be taking any questions that you have. All right.
All right, hi there. I'm Chris with Explore Ecology, and we'll be taking any questions we received through our Q&A. And this is Mia Lombardo.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Hi, I'm Mia Lombardo. I'm a third year at UCSB, and I study environmental science and history.
Wonderful. So I'm going to be reading some of the questions we're receiving in on another screen here. Let's see. First question we just got in says, interesting plastic pickup with more plastic. How many of those sanitizers will end up in the landfill? They're actually reusable. And so if we keep these for ourselves, once we've used them up completely, you can put more hand sanitizer, whether that be isopropyl alcohol or ethyl alcohol, and use it over and over again. So hopefully we won't end up with any of those hand sanitizer containers in our landfill. And if they do get thrown away, that they'll be put into a recycling can instead. Let's see. Let's see, what is the most prevalent type of litter that's found on our Santa Barbara County beaches? That's an interesting question, because over the last year to 2 years, it seems like it's changed. We used to have, unfortunately, a lot of cigarette butts on our city beaches, and that was, I believe, the #1 most commonly found litter on our beaches. Currently, food wrappers and plastic food wrappers have come to replace that figure. So this is the first time that we've actually had plastic pull forward in front of cigarettes as the type of litter most prevalent on beaches. Does the Blue Water Task Force test at other beaches or just Isla Vista?
Yeah, good question. So we're the Isla Vista Surfrider specifically, so we only test at the Isla Vista beaches and also Hendry's Beach since mid-January. But there's also actually a Santa Barbara surf keeper that tests the beaches more in the Santa Barbara area. And of course, Channel Keeper tests some of the other beaches too in the Goleta, Santa Barbara area.
Cool. Looks like there's got another question. It says, are there other alternatives to things that can have a negative effect on our water quality to use in my garden instead of toxic herbicides and pesticides? And that's an interesting question as well. There's a lot of alternatives. Some of you may have heard of neem or neem oil. This can be used instead of pesticides in a lot of cases. And instead of herbicides or weed killers, we can go back to more traditional techniques like using our hands or shovels and trying to use less harmful chemicals in general to keep those out of our water table. All right, feel free to send more questions. We'd love to hear more from you all. One for Blue Water Task Force. What type of pollutants does the Blue Water Task Force test for?
Yeah, so we test specifically for the Enterococcus bacteria, as Claire and I were mentioning in the video. So we're not really testing for a specific chemical pollutant or like nutrient fertilizer or something, but we can usually predict as a result if there's higher Enterococcus levels. We can see usually, oh, there's probably more runoff from like sewage or storm runoff drain, or like we were saying too, if there's a dog park or fecal matter.
Excellent. And one more for you, Mia, also. We have a viewer asking, is there a way to become more involved or a way to volunteer with Blue Water Task Force?
I would definitely recommend checking out the Surfrider website, especially the Santa Barbara one. The Isla Vista Surfrider is a bit more insular as it is student run, but we also do beach cleanups. Like we actually had one the other day, which was really nice. We picked up 50 pounds of garbage. That was pretty awesome. But yeah, I would also recommend really just checking out the Santa Barbara Surfrider website too.
Fantastic. Yes. It looks like we'll be doing a lot of beach cleanups as well. We have one just happening tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 5:30, as you might have heard Lydia say. We've been finding so much trash as well. We really appreciate your participation. We did a Valentine's Day cleanup where we collected over 87 pounds of trash just off of Arroyo Burro Beach here. So your participation means a lot. Oh, and also we have another question. Does the water quality data go into any national database? And the answer is yes. All of the information that we save or that we receive from our cleanups go through the Clean Swell app and actually are collated so that they are kept in a database. All right, it doesn't seem like we have too many more questions coming in. So if we don't have any more, I believe we'll wrap up our question and answer period. Mia, thank you so much for being here to answer questions about Blue Water Task Force and involvement. We really appreciate it. And please, everybody, come on out tomorrow from 4 to 5:30 at East Beach for our cleanups. And remember to check back on our Instagram as well as our website, www.exploreecology.org, so that you can learn more and find out more ways to become involved and join our second Sunday of each month litter cleanups.